What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Golf 360 podcast. I'm the host, Pete Popovich. So you may be asking yourself, what is Golf 360? And Golf 360 is a show that was designed to introduce you to people associated with the game of golf to help you improve not only at your game, but also your life. Almost all of our guests are from within the industry in some way, shape, or form, but some of the guests we have are from outside the industry, and it mainly revolves around the business world with a few others scattered in here and there. Now, all of the guests that we have a few things in common. One, they all were highly successful and accomplished in their field. Two, each has something to pass along that will help you in your game and your life. And three, they were all more than willing to give back by passing along the things that they use to help them in their career, and even some of the mistakes that they made so that others don't make them in their journey. So I hope you find listening to them as enjoyable as I did interviewing them, and that each and every one of you benefits from the information that they so willingly and graciously pass along. Hey everybody, I want to give a big shout out to a new sponsor of the Golf 360 podcast, and that's Affinity Wealth Management Group. We all work exceptionally hard for our money, and none of us can afford to let that fall into the dark abyss of the big box financial service firms and their jack of all trades and master of none mantra, which basically means you become a number within a cookie cutter model that's also often accompanied by massive fees. Your future deserves more than average returns and little attention. At Affinity Wealth Management, they ensure that your financial goals receive highly individualized, tailored attention from experts, not just advisors, who are in the industry to be great and not average. As a client of Affinity Wealth, you receive a customized solution to your customized life, keeping in mind your family's financial situation, values, and risk tolerance. Call Affinity Wealth today for a no-cost consultation with one of their experts at 724-754-8200. Again, that's 724-754-8200. Or you can also check them out on the web at www.affinitywealthmg.com. That's AFFINITYWEALTHMG.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by Just Thrive Probiotic. You may be surprised to learn that your digestive system is the key to creating and maintaining the quality of your physical, mental, and emotional health, and it's one of the body's most essential systems. That's why the majority of nutritionists today highly recommend probiotics as an indispensable nutritional supplement. As a discriminating consumer, you've probably been searching for a probiotic that is proven, potent, and effective, and you found it. Just Thrive is your best choice for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Just Thrive Probiotic captures the power of hundreds of thousands of years of nature's design with a specialized bacillus strain formulation that guarantees survivability through the stomach and upper digestive system. Supports optimum gut health, digestive health, immune health, and delivers antioxidants. Great for adults, kids, and the whole family. Use promo code GOLF360 at www.thriveprobiotic.com for 10% off your order. Hey everybody, it is great to be back. We had a bit of a hiatus because of the COVID and all the crazy shit happening in the world, but we got a great lineup of guests going forward. All of our schedules are starting to coordinate, and I'm really, really excited for everyone that's coming on, in particular today's guest, because as you look at what the things are that are needed to get through difficult times, as we're all in right now, some of the things that come to mind are perseverance, discipline, setting a goal, coming up with a plan to achieve that goal, and adhering to it through all the ups and downs, and not stopping or quitting until you get there. And today's guest checks all those boxes. I met him about 20 years ago when I turned touring professional. He was one of the nicest, best guys out on the circuit back then, and he's still one of the nicest, best guys around. Not to mention, he's a phenomenal golfer. What's very unique about his story is he did not take the conventional route to stardom. In fact, he didn't even turn pro until 10 years after college at about 31. And it took him another 17 years to get his first major tour win on the then web.com, which is, of course, we all know now is the Korn Ferry Tour. And that propelled him to become a Champions Tour member and eventually a 3-time Champions Tour winner. So if you haven't figured out who it is yet, it's Scott Parel. He is currently number 2 in the Charles Schwab Cup points, and he is also number 2 right behind Bernhard Langer on the Champions Tour money list. So Scott was kind enough to make time in his schedule and come on. He pulls the curtain back for what life is like as a touring professional, the struggles, the successes, the perseverance, and all those great qualities that make him a great champion, and share that with all of us. So I think everyone's really going to love hearing what he has to say. As he comes across, you're going to realize what a great person he is, and just enjoy today's show. So please give a big Golf 360 welcome to my friend and Champions Tour member and winner, Mr. Scott Parel. All right, here with the Champions Tour sensation, Scott Parel. Scott, thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Oh, glad to do it, Pete.
I've known you, it's coming up on 20 years, I think, and I never knew that you were born in Pontiac, Michigan, which is like 2 towns over from where I grew up.
Oh, yeah?
I never. How long did you live up there?
Well, you know what? My dad was in the Army, so we didn't really. I lived there for probably out of total of maybe 3 years altogether, and I lived actually in Rochester Hills area, but that's where I was born in Pontiac, St. Joseph's Hospital.
And then you did you move to Georgia from there, or did you go somewhere else before that?
Yeah, we did. We actually moved. We lived in Germany for a couple years when I was like 4 and 5, and then after that we came back and I lived in Michigan when I went to first grade, second grade, and then from then we moved to Georgia. Yeah,
that's it's strange that like I said, I've known you when we meet in like 2000, 2001 playing. And never knew that about you until I started doing some research when we talked about you coming on.
Yeah.
What did you play? I want to talk about your playing career and how you got started and things like that, and we'll progress through it and some other things. But did you play a lot growing up, or were you?
Yeah.
Other
things?
I
did. I did a bunch of sports. So I played football, basketball, baseball, golf. So I was year round doing something. So my golf time was really only in the summertime. Usually in the mornings, ride my bike down to the course because we lived on a golf course, Goshen Plantation. Ride my bike down to the course and then, play with my buddies and then leave after lunchtime and then go to baseball practice. And, so that's kind of how my golf was when I was a kid. And then when I got into high school, I played little junior tournaments. I got into high school. I played on the golf team 3 out of 4 years. My junior year, I didn't play on the golf team. I just played baseball because they were making us choose at that point one or the other. So I decided to play baseball that year. We already had a really pretty good team. They actually won the state my junior year. There was a bunch of older kids who went to play college, so they didn't really need me. So I played baseball, and then I played again in the senior year, and we won the state that year too. So,
and that was in Augusta.
Yeah, in Augusta.
You grew up in and around Augusta area.
Yeah, at Aquinas High School. Yeah, from 3rd grade on, was in Augusta, and then my wife and I both went to the University of Georgia, and then we ended up moving back to Augusta after we finished school. So,
did you? I mean, it's widely known. I mean, you went to the University of Georgia, and I've always, as long as I've known, you carried the Bulldog head cover. Did you play golf there?
No, I did not. No golf in college. I actually didn't even know. I talked to the coach about potentially trying out right when I first got there, and he told me kind of what it was going to involve, and I said, I'll just go to school. So, to do all the stuff I would have to do just basically so I could say I was on the team, because I could tell already there was no chance I was ever going to be playing. And honestly, I was not. At that point, I probably wasn't good enough to be on Georgia's golf team anyway.
Mm-hmm. So I remember when we were playing that DP tour so many years ago that you were always after dinner and we had a great group of guys, and there would always be groups of us going to dinner, 10, 12 guys at a time. And then somebody go back and hang out in somebody's room and watch baseball or whatever was on TV, and you were always doing computer work. So were you, after school and you went into computer programming, were you always, was that work, or were you just piddling around on a
Yeah,
computer?
you know what? I think at that point it still was work. Yeah, because I was still doing some consulting um, on the side, trying to make extra money. So yeah, I was still involved. Trying to think at the end of when I guess once I kind of got onto when I earned my status onto the what is now the Korn Ferry Tour or whatever, I kind of gave that up and really hadn't done it for quite a while. But yeah, oh yeah, I was still doing that stuff. Yeah.
What was did you play enough golf when you were in college to give consideration to trying to play pro golf, or were you focused on studies and it never crossed your mind?
I never, in all my years at Georgia, I think I played the golf course there in Athens one time. So I never played when I was in school, actually up in school. Now in the summer times in between, I would play here and there, but no, nothing too major. But then once I got out of school is when I started to actually start playing more golf and playing in amateur tournaments. And I really I got a lot better when I got in my mid to late 20s. I became a lot better golfer. So
What was it that kind of kick-started that?
I don't really know. It's probably one of those things. Had I concentrated on golf when I was younger, maybe I would have been better sooner. But I was in to do so many other things when I was younger, and golf was maybe my second or third favorite thing to play. I mean, I loved playing baseball and football more than golf. So I didn't, and then once you get in your 20s, it's hard to play football anymore.
Right.
And I played church basketball and I played church softball, and I actually loved doing that and being on teams and hanging out with the guys. But, I was a competitor. I wanted to compete, and that's basically what it came down to. And so I would start playing in tournaments and then, wanting to win and so I worked on my game, and I never really did that as a kid. All I ever did was play. I didn't practice. I mean, when it was time for golf, I just went to the course, hit a few balls, and then played. I wasn't out there grinding anything at all when I was a kid. And then, when I got in my 20s, that was something I enjoyed doing. It was something that I wanted to do, was to try to get better and, play some golf at a higher level. At that point, it was more like just, playing the state AMs. And, I ended up qualifying to get in the US AM for the first time in '94 when Tiger won down at Sawgrass. So, about that time is when I really started feeling like, hey, I'm in, this golf stuff's pretty cool and I like to compete at it. And, it just really got better when I got close to 30 years old. Was, my golf was much better than when I was, 18 or 20.
Did you ever have any doubts or things creep into your mind that says, I'm a 30-year-old and I'm playing with these guys that are in college, these, flat bellies and working out and doing all these things and hitting it a mile? Was it you were so laser focused that you knew what you wanted to do and you were going to do it?
Well, when I first started, sure, there was some, I wouldn't say doubt, but that was not, it was so new to me that I really didn't know how it was supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have any real set expectations other than I knew I wanted to get better and I wanted to try to get on the PGA Tour. And that was really what my goal was. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the people, when we played on that tour, we're playing with Boo Weekley and Heath Slocum and, Bubba Watson here and there. And so, I wasn't watching these guys thinking, how, am I as good as them? I mean, sometimes I would win, sometimes they would win. So I felt like I was, holding my own, on the mini tour circuit, but I could never, just like a lot of guys, it's tough to get through that Q school. I mean, that's just it's such a tough deal. I think that's one of the hardest things in golf that nobody has any idea how tough that is to go through a few stages of Q school. to try to get to the finals to where you're going to have some status. Now you just have status on the Korn Ferry Tour, but back then, it was a chance to actually earn your way onto the PGA Tour. I mean, far and away more pressure, at second stage, first stage of Q School than any golf tournament that I ever played in. So there are so many guys, and a ton of guys too, that were unbelievable golfers on the mini tour world. We play with them, and they're like, there's no way that guy can't, make it on tour. But if you don't play good, those 1 or 2 weeks of Q School, it doesn't matter how well you played the other 50 weeks, you're right back where you started.
Right.
And that's tough. That's tough to deal with mentally, knowing that now you gotta wait a whole nother year for this to come around, and you sure hope you peaked at the right time this time. It's just I don't think people really realize, how tough that is. That whole Q School thing is just, to me, is way more pressure than winning any tournament, really, because it's you lose a golf tournament, you still finish second. You still got something going on. You lose, Q School, you don't get through, you got nothing. I mean, you're basically where you were before you started.
Yeah, I remember being at first stage one year at Jennings Mill, and I think I was second or third going to the final day and played terrible and shot 77. It was the longest drive home I think I've ever made in my life.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like, now what am I going to do for the next 6 months?
Yeah, I know. It's and that's part of it's part of learning how to be, how to be a golfer. Really, I mean, that just goes with it. Mentally, you got to be strong enough to deal with those situations, and then if you do fail, to learn from them and try to hopefully, improve and get better and get through the next time. It took me a bunch of times before I got there. So, and then there's some guys that just never do. And I mean, guys that were better golfers than I ever was. I know that.
Do you think the way that they've changed the criteria to gain membership to the PGA Tour is better now, in that you have to go through the Korn Ferry?
I think it's better in that there aren't many guys now that earn their way through the way you have to do now, that are, guys that get out there and you're like, whoa, this dude just doesn't belong. You know what I mean? Like, he's just not ready yet. I think back the way we used to do it, there would always could be a, one or a two guy and he just had an unbelievable couple of weeks, and then he gets out there and you can just see, his just game is just not ready yet. So I think there's a lot less of that. I don't know that I necessarily like it. I still think there are guys that are good enough right out of whenever they first get to Q School that, hey, this guy's good enough to be on the PGA Tour right now. Does he really need to do this Korn Ferry thing? And with this new thing that the tour's doing with the college guys and all that, maybe that's going to kind of take care of that and fix that problem a little bit, where, a guy who's a, world beater, college player, All-American, has won everything, he's going to get some starts and going to figure out, his way out there a little faster than he would have before. So we'll see.
Going back a little bit to when you grew up playing, where, there weren't a lot of, the mindset wasn't so specialized back then. And then
Right.
you learn practice and maybe you modify your swing, or you're working on your technique or something like that. As you look back, do you view that as something that really worked in your favor? Or is it something that you would have done different?
I tell you the thing, when I look back, the one thing that I wish I had done different is, I've never had a swing coach. I never had any formal lesson or anything like that. I wish that I had maybe seen someone for short game and putting, and just someone to at least give me a better way to practice, because I felt like I worked pretty hard at it, but I just think I worked wrong. When I got, later in life, in my 40s and 50s, I finally figured out that I'm not practicing the right way, I think, on the putting green and around the greens, and that I spent a lot of hours doing that when I was younger, but I don't think I really learning anything. I never really seemed to get much better. My full swing stuff, I never felt like I got too out of whack with that. I mean, I kind of knew my own swing. I could look at it on a video or whatever and figure it out without a whole lot of problem. But to me, the short game, the putting, I wish I had concentrated on that. And like I said, that wasn't that I wasn't putting the time in. I just don't think I was doing it right. And so I wish I had maybe consulted somebody that would have probably, so, all right, this is what we need to do. And maybe not so much change techniques even, but at least give me things to do so that I would have practiced the right way.
That's strange hearing you say that, because I always remember your short game being so solid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was way more erratic than, I mean, I had goods and bad times, but I just really, when I got out there on the Nationwide and the Web.com tour, it was easy for me to figure out. I don't think you can see that so much on mini tours. It's easy to figure out that the guy that's going to have success out there is the guy that's making the putts, and is really good from inside 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
On those mini tours, I feel like, at least when I was playing, it sure seemed like the ball strikers had more success. I mean, yeah, the guys who could putt did well as too, but I think you could seem to get away with more. And maybe it was because we're playing softer greens, slower greens, short siding yourself's not as big a deal. Everybody's playing really aggressively. It's a little different than that next level tour where it's a little more important to be on the right side of the hole, or to give yourself an uphill putt versus a downhill putt, that kind of stuff. Mini tours, you never really had to worry a whole lot about that in general. And I think that the guy who's hitting the ball the best seems to win a lot more out there than there's a lot of guys that hit it great on the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour. But if you look who wins, it's pretty much the guy who leads the tour that week in strokes gained putting, or whatever statistic on the green you want to call it. That's usually the guy that's winning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured that out when I got out there on those tours. Unfortunately, I just didn't figure it out soon enough to earn my way onto the PGA Tour.
You had mentioned not ever having really a formal lesson. Would you attribute your swing to natural ability with a lot of playing and learning how to think your way around a golf course and play the game versus playing swing?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I watched my dad taught me to play. I watched my dad play and swing, and especially when I was younger, I swung a lot like him, very flat, a lot of hard right to left. He was a good player, but that's what I watched, growing up, and that's how I swung the golf club. And eventually, I figured out that you can't be, quite as flat as that, and you still have to, got to maybe hit it a little straighter. but it's it was athletic ability a little bit too. I had good hand-eye coordination, and then I was a pretty athletic guy. I think that all helped. But as far as, I don't know that I would have been any better had I had a swing coach that, did something and changed my golf swing and made me swing differently. My swing is far, far from perfect. Believe me, I know it has faults, but at least I know where it is. And I know how to usually correct it. And I think there's something to that, versus somebody that needs to talk to somebody every time they feel something going wrong in their swing. And it's just a different culture. I think young guys now, they all get coaches so young. Mm-hmm. That's just how they learn the game. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's how you learn the game. I learned the game going to the range and hitting balls myself when I, started working on my game, and then trying things and trying to figure out, what works for me.
Did you see that drastic cultural difference when you went from playing back then the Web, now the Korn Ferry, where the guys were younger and they were a different generation that utilized coaches and their gurus and this and nutritionists and trainers and the whole thing, and then you go to the champions and it's like you're back into the figured out yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember, like when I was on the Nationwide Web.com tour, There were definitely guys, with their coaches and all that, but I don't think it was to the point, that we're talking back like 2000, 5 to 2015 was basically when I played it. There wasn't TrackMan wasn't till later than that, but once guys started using the TrackMan and analyzing all the numbers and the angles and the spin ratios and all that stuff, then to me it really has gotten way more in the mechanics and the science of it versus the art of it, of hitting shots. And technology, the equipment has had a lot to do with that as well. The ball doesn't move like it used to, and you don't have to hit it in the center of the face as much to get as much out of the shots as you used to have to do when we were younger. So it's just a different game. I mean, it's now the Champions Tour guys. There are guys that still do that, but there's not as many guys that do that. And those guys all learned like I did. I mean, they all beat balls on the range and figured it out. They had coaches maybe, but they weren't analyzing what their launch angle and their spin rate and all that kind of stuff was. So it's kind of come back some full circle, but there's guys out aren't on the PGA Tour Champions still work. I mean, they don't get the impression that everybody shows up a half an hour before their tee time, hits a few balls, plays 18 holes, goes, has lunch and then drives home. I mean, there's still guys, guys are still working. I mean, I think it's probably, most of those guys will tell you it's a lot more educated work because, we can't, at our age, we can't stand out there for 6 hours beating balls. So guys it's more into the quality than the quantity, but there are guys putting in quality work out there. And I mean, you can tell that by the scores that guys shoot. I mean, we're not playing. I know people think we're playing these pitch and putt easy golf courses. Now we have a few that are easier than others, but they're still putting pins 4 from the edges, and we still have a little bit of rough here and there. So, it's you still gotta be a pretty solid player to win on that tour.
Have you? So you've kind of multi-generational in that you went from the era of, like you said, before TrackMan or flight scopes or any of that, the tech really took off, and now you're at the highest level of the game, and you have access to those things. Do you find yourself staying true to what got you there, or do you start to dabble in the things that are waved in front of you, where you have access to that stuff?
It's kind of I'd say I'm a little bit of a hybrid of that. I definitely do way more of my own thing, but it's hard when you you have the ability to get on a TrackMan real quick if you feel like something funny's happening with your driver or something, but rarely do I tell you, I don't do that every week. I mean, that's probably once a month thing that I'll get on a TrackMan from a club company or something that wants me to try a driver or try this or that. But that's really the only time I don't know that I've ever hit any other club on a TrackMan. Like, I know some guys use it for wedges, and the only thing I've ever remember hitting the only club I remember hitting on TrackMan is a driver, just to see what kind of ball speed and spin rate basically I have. That's about it. So
you don't tinker with my 5-iron's going 3 feet too high, or it's 200 dart,
never.
200 spin
Like
too
I said,
much.
I've never hit a club other than a driver on the TrackMan that I can remember.
It probably saves your sanity.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think guys, you can get caught up in that stuff to where, you just get so focused on numbers that you forget what the idea of the game is to get it in the hole in the fewest number of strokes, and I think you can kind of lose sight of that a little bit.
Through all the years of as your development happened from learning to play and then practicing when you realized you wanted to play professional golf, are you, well, you're obviously very adept at understanding your own swing, but if you do get in a funk, is there anyone you call on, your caddy or someone you played a lot with, or is there someone that you utilize? Or do you
You
just
know,
take time off and go
no,
fishing and say, oh, it'll come around again?
no, I usually just do video, I'll just video. So, I mean, I've got video of when I was hitting it well, and I'll just compare. Okay, this is when it was doing what I wanted it to do, and now this is what I'm doing now. And I'm pretty quick to figure out, you know, what's going on. And it's usually just a couple of different things for me. I mean, it doesn't it doesn't change, every time something's going haywire and I look at it, I was like, oh yeah, well, that's the same old thing I always do. But you you play this game long enough, you get into patterns, you do things that are, kind of, unfortunately, you make the same mistakes over and over. And as I get older, it seems like I fall into those patterns, maybe even a little faster now because my body just doesn't move, as well as I would like it to. So, those are things that you really, I didn't never used to have to tell myself, in my 30s to make sure make sure I got my head up a little bit so I can get my shoulder up under my chin on, when I turn. Well, now, I don't, I can look at a video and say, yeah, no wonder you're not getting over to your right side. I mean, your shoulder's not turning, and those are things that you just don't, when you're younger, you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 55, that's something you gotta, if it, you look at it on video and you're like, yep, you know what, that's what you got to start doing. So, and video is great. The cameras and things that we have now, it's pretty easy to see that stuff.
The do you think was your background in computer programming and being savvy with those type of things? Do you think that helped you, or is it just completely different? It was just something you grew up doing.
What's that? Help me with what? Like from
let me put maybe being more of an analyzer.
Yeah, I
Enable
mean, I'm a
self-correct.
problem solver. I
Right.
mean, that's basically what somebody that writes software is just basically a problem solver. They just use a different language to solve the problem. Than instead of just a math problem, it's this is the problem and how you're going to fix it. And I think that is a lot. That probably does have a lot to do with. I mean, that's what you do in golf. All right, why do I keep hitting this 5-iron over here? And then you look at it and you analyze it, and then you look at the video and then help figure that out. So yeah, I mean, in a way, that probably does help somewhat.
As I was looking at some of your stats today, you're one of the longer hitters on the Champions Tour.
Yeah.
Where do you get your length from? Is it something that you work on?
No, I don't know. I get asked that so much because of my size. Everybody, usually when I'm playing in a pro-am, guys you play with, they want to look at what your stats are, and they're like, how are you? Look at the size of you. How are you? How do you do it? And I'm like, I really, honestly, I don't know. I don't do anything other than I do try to stay fit. I work out pretty regularly when I'm home, and I stretch, and I, try to do the best I can when I'm on the road. But I just think I have, an ability to use my lower body and my core in a fast way. And I think that's really what has to happen. I mean, distance is all about the speed of the club. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you look at me and you look at the size of my arms, and, I couldn't probably bench press 100 pounds. I don't know. I never do bench presses, but I think it's so much. But, if you look at me from, my belly button to my knees, you see, man, that's, he's pretty strong looking athletic guy. And I think that's just where, for whatever reason, when I learned how to swing the golf club, I realized that I needed to be using, those parts of my body to get the club moving fast, and not my arms or my upper body. And I think that it's just kind of stuck with me as I've gotten older. Luckily, those muscles have kind of still stayed pretty fit. Now, I work at it, but I think it's just really that. It's just the ability to use my core to get the golf club moving quickly.
Do you work with a trainer or fitness professional?
I do. Yeah, I do. I've been seeing the same guy now for, oh gosh, I'm probably 12 years here in Augusta. And he specializes in, he helps, he's got a lot of golfers. So, I mean, you know, I've gotten Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown here in town started out. They don't go too many more. Henrik Norlander, who plays on the tour, he still sees them here. And like, Augusta University's golf team, those guys come see him. So yeah, Jay Garrison he he does a good job with that, and he knows that that's he's got people that like me that talk to other people around town. So he's got a lot of golfers here, not just professionals here locally that come to see him to try to get their bodies to do things that you need to be able to do to swing a golf club.
How has your training changed over the years?
How's my what?
Your training, your fitness
My training.
programs?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten now to where I do more stretching, not so much anything too heavy. I mean, I'm doing band work. I'm doing mostly resistance. No, I don't do any free weights but it's all working on glutes and abs, and I think I've been doing that since I really started seeing Jay. I mean, we kind of realized that that's what it was going to be for me. I'm not pumping up my biceps, and I've got a pretty solid back, but the back is really just for holding up, so it'll hold up under the conditions of being a golfer. So we just really do a lot of glutes and a lot of abs. That's really the focus of most of my training.
As somebody looks over the course of your career, where you played the mini tours until right around the early to mid 2000s, and then you were on the web.com, we'll call it Korn Ferry now, which is the name. Do you attribute that to the and then you had steady progression to where you are now? Would you attribute that to anything you've done in your training program since you've been doing it about 12 years, or would you say it's something else?
I would say that the training program probably helped me stay at a high level into my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I won when I was 48 on the web.com tour. If I'm not fit, if I'm not taking care of myself that way, most likely I don't think I win, and I don't think I get on the PGA Tour Champions. I don't see that happening without the training that I've done. Has that caused me to have the success I have? I don't know if that's the case, but it probably would seem to make sense that, for somebody who was, in his 30s, was an okay golfer that has gotten better as he's gotten older. I would say you have to kind of be in pretty good shape for that to happen, so.
When you mentioned winning at 48 on the Korn Ferries. Was it kind of, you got to rub it in the young guy's face a little bit that you're 48 years old and still whooping up on him?
Well, I let a few people know about it. Yeah, maybe, but that was a really huge thing. Probably the biggest thing that's happened in my golf career for that to happen, really, because that gave me a place to play till I was 50. That gave me confidence to know that hey, I'm pretty good golfer at the age of 48. If I can stay healthy, maybe I can figure out a way to earn my way onto the Champions Tour. And yeah, that was probably the most important thing that happened in my golfing career. Once I've gotten on this tour, I've had some great things as well, but it's so hard for a guy in my position to get on this tour. That's the thing about it, is that there are spots for guys like me, but it's hard to get on this tour if you're not a PGA, if you're not a guy that had success on the PGA Tour. It's just difficult. And there are guys that have had PGA Tour success that have a hard time making it happen. So for me to be able to do that, it's just that for whatever reason I seem to become a better golfer when I was 47 than when I was 37, and I think it was maybe a maturity thing, and it was it just took me a long time, I think, to get comfortable, and when I finally won when I was 48, I actually felt like, hey, you know what, maybe I did actually do the right thing, because up to that point I still wasn't sure, that I quit doing computers and left my wife to, fend for our kids, and I was on the road all the time. But it finally it finally seemed to seem like that was the right thing to do.
You had mentioned a comfort level, and if, I used to tell that to a lot of people. I said, "What's the difference?" I said, "Well, once you get to a certain level, all the guys can hit it really well, or if they're at that level, if they don't hit it as good, maybe they miss maybe they're hitting 11 greens around instead of 12 or 13. Then their short game's really good, but they're always fantastic at something. But it's getting, like you said, comfortable for a lot of people with whatever it is that they're not comfortable with. For the travel, does their game go on the road? Are they comfortable leaving their families for extended periods of time? And some people, I mean, a lot of people can shoot 62, 63 at home with their regular groups, and then they go on the road and they lose that comfort level.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a big part of being a professional golfer is the ability. There's so many different things that you have to learn how to do, the traveling and the taking care of yourself when you're on the road and getting the proper rest. And I mean, there's all kinds of things that it's easy to not know how to do that. And there are definitely guys that, it's hard to be away from your family. And some people deal with it better than others, and I've had a few friends who I thought were pretty darn good golfers who, earned status and got to get on, a Korn Ferry type tour and did it for a couple months. And they're like, it's just not for me, this kind of travel and being away from it's just not me, and it's just not for everybody, and not everybody's makeup is able to handle that kind of thing. And, there are guys that can, and part of that is just like you said, part of that is being comfortable with all the things that go along with it, and that's something you don't know whether or not you have, or, you don't know that you have that or you don't have that until you actually do it,
Yeah, you're putting that arena.
Right, until you get out there and you start flying on planes and renting cars, and it's when the stuff you and I were doing, all you did was throw your clubs in the trunk,
drive,
pack a few shorts and shirts and drive, right? And you get there and then you play a practice round, and it's just like playing with your buddies for a few days, and if you do well, you get a check, and then you drive back home. Well, that's way different than being on the road 6 straight weeks, not ever coming home until, you've missed 5 out of 6 cuts, or something. It's just mentally and physically, I think it's just it's a whole lot harder than that mini tour stuff. And that's something you just don't know until you experience it,
I try to get that through. And I know that to young guys that I coach or that ask me, what's it like playing? I want to play. I want to get to the PGA Tour and the whole dream. And, you tell them, you try to explain to them, it's you're going to get to a different variable level every time you go up. And it's how well do you handle all the variables? Because once you get to the biggest stages, like where you are, the PGA Tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, there's so much stuff happening at once. And, the guys or the girls who have the radars up or the rabbit ears, it just eats them alive. You see that over and over. And then it takes them that time to maybe go back to a lower tour and really learn how to focus when they're playing, instead of, okay, I'm going to go to this restaurant, or I'm going to go hang out with this group, or I'm going to do this, or I'm in this big city now, what do I do? And it's like, no, you're there it's a business.
Right. And it's not even so much that, even as it is, the time that you spend at the office, which is like at the golf course, right? So it's, you get there, and now there's all these people that are every bit as good as you, and you're on the range, and what are you doing? Are you working on the stuff you should work? Are you watching how this guy does this? Or, you know what I mean? It's tough to keep that same focus, I think. And it's easy to get caught up in, hanging out with the buddies and, playing the practice round, the money games. And I'm not saying that some of that stuff's not good, but you got to figure out what works best for you to get you to be the best player you can be. And it's different for everyone. So what's working for, Justin Thomas isn't necessarily going to always work for Jordan Spieth, even though they're best buddies, right? I mean, it's a business. They got to figure out what is it that I do that makes me the best player. And maybe that doesn't, maybe I'm not playing every Tuesday with Ricky Fowler and Jordan. Maybe I'm, having to do this or do that. So and that's, like we said, that's not anything until you get out there and you really experience it. So you can't really tell somebody, well, here, this is the roadmap. This is what you got to do, and you'll be successful, because you just don't know from person to person how people deal with situations and what is the best environment for someone to become a better player. You just don't really know.
Yeah, you got to drop them in that environment and see how they react.
Yeah. It's different for everybody.
Once you started getting to the higher levels, and even to the Champions Tour, was there an awe factor at all, where you're seeing guys now?
For sure.
Like,
when I first got to the Champions Tour, yeah, for sure. I get on, I'm on the range, and here's Bernhard Langer and Larry Mize and Mark O'Meara, all these guys that I was rooting for when they were playing in the Masters. The Masters is huge for me, being here in Augusta. So I usually equate all those guys as to, Masters of tournaments when they did this or when they did that. So yeah, it was definitely a little bit of that. But luckily for me, here I'm already 50 years old at that point, that I'm mature enough to know, okay, this is cool, but what's your objective here? This is your business. This is your career. So, hey, it's awesome that you're hitting balls next to Fred Couples, but you need to do what you got to do so that you can have a chance to beat Fred Couples every once in a while, and I think it's easier for a guy in his 50s than it is for a kid fresh out of college who's, hitting balls next to Dustin Johnson or John Rahm, or something. And maybe, although I don't think it seems like the kids are not as in awe anymore, but there's still got to be a little bit of that, starstruck type stuff. So, but they may not be, some of them, mature enough to understand yet. When you're 50, you should be able to understand that, these guys are really good. And they were really awesome, in their 30s when they were winning Masters, but now they're basically the same as you. Some of them got more game than you do, but when you play well, you can hang with them, and when you don't, you won't. So you got to do what you can so that your game stays sharp.
What was there anyone out there that as you got to know them, that they surprised you, that maybe they on TV that they were more serious, but in the practice rounds are just hanging out with the guys that they're really fun to be with?
Almost everybody out there is a pretty fun guy to be around. And there's a few guys, I'm sure there's people that, to me, like the biggest difference, I get asked, by people all the time, like, who's the biggest jerk, or who's the nicest guy, or all that kind of thing. And I would say the person for me that is the most different from, I think, how a lot of people perceived him over the years and on TV, and then, is Colin Montgomery. Because I felt like there was a lot of disdain for Colin, when he was winning European Tour, and Ryder Cups and all that. About the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, and I love playing golf with Colin, and I just think he's a great guy. I mean, and he's intense. It's not like he's out there on the golf course just, yucking it up, but he is a lot of fun to play with, and he's genuinely, I think, a pretty good guy. And I just think that, to me, out of all the people that, when I was watching golf, and I don't want to say that I certainly was not a big Colin Montgomery fan, when I was following golf when he was in his heyday, but that was just because all I ever saw of him was what TV was showing me and what the media was saying about him. And now that I'm on tour playing with him regularly, he's one of the guys I love to play with. I really do enjoy playing with Colin, and he's a really good guy.
Does he still hit it as good as he always did?
Oh man, just doesn't miss a fairway. Just a beautiful little. Every shot looks the same, every tee shot's about a 2-yard fade, and if there's a right pin, he's gonna hit it close. And and actually, he can draw the ball with anybody. I mean, if he needs to hit a draw, he hits a draw. So yeah, he is a very pure ball striker. I think he just struggles a little bit on the greens, and it's just a confidence thing with him. When he's makes a few putts and he feels good about his putting, he can shoot as low as anybody. But it seems like one little miss somewhere, and then he loses a little bit of confidence, and he still hits the ball, fantastic. But he's missing some 8 and 10 foot birdies, and that weighs on you. And then you press a little bit, and maybe you don't play as well as you think you should, and that's just golf for everybody. But he hits the ball fantastic.
Do you enjoy the culture of the Champions Tour more so than you did the Korn Ferry when you were there, and even the
yeah.
PGA, because you played a number of PGA Tour events?
Yeah. I mean, it's no doubt. I mean, it's our tour is such a great place to play, and it's such a great tour. I think. I mean, I hate that we're in these times where fans can't come out and enjoy our tour, because I really feel like it's the best fan experience that there is out there, because these guys, we play good golf. We're not hitting 380-yard drives and driving greens, but we play good golf. We play golf courses where you generally see a fair number of birdies, and everybody's rooting for everybody. Everybody is everybody's buddy out there. And I think it's pretty apparent when you watch. I really do. I feel like you can tell that it's almost, a fraternity type atmosphere amongst the players. Everybody wants to win, but everybody's happy for the guy who does win. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, and you feel that. And I've been lucky enough to win and feel that from the other players. And I don't know that there's that kind of camaraderie on the other tours. I surely didn't feel it on the Korn Ferry Tour, just because everybody out there is just so hungry. Everybody out there is just so, top 25 focused. Nobody's that worried about how anybody else is doing. And it's a different atmosphere. I think everybody on this tour pays attention to who wins, is happy for the guy that wins, and is can't wait to congratulate him. And doesn't mean you don't want to win, but it's an awesome place to play. It really is.
Was there anything that from your win on the Korn Ferry / Web Tour in, I think it was 13, until you won out on the Champions, which was, you correct me if I'm wrong, about 2018?
Yeah.
Was that was in that 5 years? Was that another adjustment period to go from one that, as you just described, kind of a culture where everyone goes their own way, or they're so laser focused, to one where it's more of a fraternity? Was that an adjustment that way, or was there something else in your game or with you that
well,
allowed you to click?
I think I kind of just made a transition when I won in 13, but I didn't get my tour card. I came close, but generally when in that year, I didn't have a very good year. I mean, I was a little bit hurt. I had one really good week, and it wasn't good enough to earn my way to the PGA Tour. So when I didn't get on the PGA Tour then, when I was 48, my focus kind of changed for me personally. I'm not going to say that I wasn't trying to earn my way onto the PGA Tour, but my goal at that point then was more, let's just stay healthy. Let's try to improve. Let's try to get a little better every year, and focused on really trying to, I couldn't turn 50 fast enough, so because, the reality is there's not too many guys that are rookies on the PGA Tour when they're 49.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if they are, there are not too many that are going to have a whole lot of success on the PGA Tour at 49. So my goals kind of changed. And I've really focused on playing with guys more my own age. And that probably helped me. I didn't have any, there was no doubt in my mind what my next goal was. It wasn't, well, I want to get on. My goal was earn your way onto the Champions Tour however you can, because I had seen guys that I'd played with on the Korn Ferry Tour who were similar to me, like a guy like Scott Dunlop, and he had some success late in his career on the Korn Ferry Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got on the Champions Tour and did pretty good right away. And I thought, I can be similar to that. I think if I get out there, I can have some success. But I've got to focus and do what I can do so that I make sure that I get a chance to get out there, because it's not easy to do that. So my focus changed pretty significantly, like in 2014. Not so much from, like I say, it wasn't that I wasn't trying to get on the PGA Tour. I was just trying to make sure that my game improved. I got to play a lot of competition, and that I was ready when I turned 50 to make a run at this tour.
Everything was sharp and ready to go.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
What was there anything that led to your, I guess, a breakout year for you in 18? Or was it just that you got that comfort level?
Yeah, I think it was a comfort level. I mean, I had a really good 16 and 17 as well, but I never got over the hump. When I was in 17, I played in the final group in our first major with Langer and Fred Funk, and I held up all right. I ended up finishing second, and I think after that, I really playing with the guy who's been arguably the best, old player other than Hale Irwin in the history of this game. Realizing that I was, my game's good enough to play with him. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence, so that, all right, just, you don't have to do anything crazy. Just, hang in there. When you play well, take advantage of it. And when you struggle a little bit, just hang and, something good is going to happen. And I think that's kind of the attitude I took for 18. And, that's basically what happened. I had a decent beginning of the year, and at the end, I really started playing well, and won a couple times toward the end of the year.
Yeah, I remember we were going crazy watching you win those things and slugging it out. I'm like, hey, that's a friend of mine. He's beating the
Yeah.
big boys at the top. So that was very fun to watch. It's been fun watching you progression. Do you think, I remember, I don't know if it was at the Heritage, I ran into him, Boo, of course.
Yeah.
After one of his wins, or the I can't remember which one it was, but he's very popular around here. And him saying in one of the interviews that he explained how he was self-taught and worked his way up through the mini tours and Webb, Korn Ferry, and then the PGA Tour, and without really a swing coach. I mean, I remember Jack Slocum used to help him a little bit, just tip here, tip there. But they asked him, I said, do you think that someone could do that now? And he said he didn't think that was possible with all the competition and the experts and this and that. But here you are that you've done it. And I'm not saying Boo's wrong. I think it's very difficult. And I think what you've done and what he's done is a great thing. But the next generation, do you think that that's possible, that there's somebody out there right now who's, say, 22 and they just graduated and they're a pretty good golfer, but they're listening to this and saying, wow, Scott Parel did that. I think I'm going to take my shot at it.
I mean,
or has the game changed so much since then?
I got to believe that there's somebody that could do that. I mean, is it more difficult? I think so. I mean, I agree. It would take a lot of things would really have to fall into place for it to happen, because I mean, the game has changed. The way kids compete now, starting so young, and how they learn, how to win in big stages at young ages, and they don't have the, there's no fear factor, it doesn't seem like anymore. I think it would be hard for somebody to wait till they're 30 to turn pro, and be able to and be a self-taught, it would be difficult. Mm-hmm. It would be very difficult, but I wouldn't say it could never happen. I mean, I think you could definitely see on my tour, something like that definitely has a much better chance of happening than it would be on the Korn Ferry Tour or the PGA Tour. And just because there are a lot of guys, who are in their mid to late 40s, that have had successful businesses, and they can practice and do all the golfing they want to do and not financially ever have to worry, and could figure out a way to earn their way out here. I mean, I could definitely see that happening more than onto the like Boo did on the PGA Tour, or like
Mm-hmm.
a Tommy Gainey, like that story. I
Right.
mean, that's just something like that happening again. Yeah, probably not. Probably not going to happen. But
It,
I could see it on my tour happening again.
well, and it's almost sad in a way because I remember, like through the '90s, what I think helped the Champions Tour was that influx of the Tom Wargos and the Jim Albises and Rocky Thompsons and
Right.
Larry Loretti's. And it's not like those guys were great players in their day, and for whatever reason they left playing full time and went into the club business, but they still maintained their games at the PGA sectional level. It wasn't like they came out of nowhere, but to the general public, I don't think they were well known. But
Right. Right.
and it does you're right, and it seems to happen on the Champions more, and I think that's uh, part of the draw is everyone wants to see um, the guy who we don't really know about for whatever reason. He's not just mainstream; he's a great golfer out there competing and winning with the names that everybody grew up watching. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's sometimes I feel like that kind of gets lost a little bit in the shuffle on our tour. I mean, listen, our tour is all about. I mean, when Phil Mickelson played, last tournament, that was a great thing for our tour to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jim Furyk played and won, and obviously having Ernie and Retief, and those are the guys that are going to sustain this tour. I mean, you need those names, those marquee guys to say, to play and to be regulars on our tour in order for companies and corporations to be willing to put the money up for these tournaments. Now, that's a different side of the average Joe golfer watching the Golf Channel, and the Champions Tour tournament comes on, and he sees Shane Birch in a playoff, with Bernhard Langer and Glenn Day. Two guys. I mean, you may not know Glenn that much. You certainly know who Bernhard Langer is,
Right.
and that is intriguing to the average guy who's watching. So I think there's a mix there that is great. It's just a matter of how does our tour promote that so that the right people are interested. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if there was nothing but a bunch of Scott Parels playing on this tour, it would be hard to get SAS to sponsor a tournament in Cary, North Carolina. But because you have Bernhard Langer and Ernie Els and Jim Furyk and Retief Goosen, it's not that hard, because those are guys and names that everybody in the golfing world knows, and those are guys that people want to see. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see a Scott Parel or a Shane Birch, but that's not going to sell a lot of tickets. You know what I mean?
Right. I think
So
as a
it's a
society.
fine it's just kind of it's kind of a mixture of. I think it's a great, and that's great about our tour. I think there's a great mix of that. You got Hall of Fame golfers who people will be talking for hundreds of years, and then you got guys like me who, for however little time I'm going to have success on this tour, that it at least makes it interesting every once in a while when somebody like me is, up there having a chance to win against people that are in Hall of Fame. It makes for good story, you know.
I think it speaks to some of the dynamic of our society for history, in that society, I think, likes to see whether it's a bit polarizing, like let's say the New York Yankees, right? Half the people want to see them win, half the people want to see them lose, but they're all tuning in to see them. But
Right,
not, I
right,
don't think everybody likes to see the Yankees winning the World Series every year, and it's nice to see somebody like many years ago, the Florida Marlins come along almost out of nowhere and beat them. Um,
right.
so yeah, it's a very good recipe, but as you said, you got to have the big names, the
Right.
legendary names there to sustain, and that little that little part of the recipe that has guys who are lesser known competing and winning, that almost that David versus Goliath, people like to see the underdog.
Right.
And that's great.
I think that's right. Yeah, right. And I think that's one of the things that's great about our tour. I mean, you're not sure there's some David and Goliath type stories on the PGA Tour, but if a guy is good enough to be on the PGA Tour, you may not have heard of him, but he's still pretty darn good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but on the Champions Tour, somebody like me, I wasn't any good for a long time, and then for whatever reason, I've gotten better as I've gotten older, and nobody's ever heard of me, and that's great. That's fine. And when I have a chance to compete with Hall of Famers and it makes for good TV or makes it interesting, that's great for the tour, and that keeps it exciting. I think it is definitely a good mix.
Even with the success you've had, it's got to be somewhat nice. I mean, people they're asking for your autograph and everything else, but it's got to be nice to be able to go to dinner and not be bombarded, isn't it?
For sure. I mean, I would much rather 100% live my life in obscurity and anonymity, and be successful than even like a Phil Mickelson or a Tiger Woods, or obviously somebody to that level. I mean, I feel bad for those guys because they can't do normal stuff. It's just hard.
Yeah. How do you go to?
It's difficult.
How do you go to a movie?
Right.
How do you go out to? How do you take your kids to a ball game?
Yeah, and I'll never have to worry about that, and that's great.
I think you keep winning at the rate you're winning. That might be changing.
No, that won't ever change, and I'm good with that. And I prefer it to be that way. I'll always, I think that's just part of that's a part of the comfort level, like what we're talking about. I don't think I would be that comfortable being, somebody like that, because that's just not me. It never has been me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
if I can touch on real quick, as we all age, it gets harder to do things. Does your diet play into your career at all, in what you eat and watching what you eat, so you can continue to play at this level?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's I don't do a very good job of it, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I try, and I think that has a lot. I mean, you look at, I mean, I always bring Bernhard up, but you look at that man now. I mean, his body and the way he is, and I mean, he definitely takes care of himself in eating. I mean, there's no way you can, be as fit as he is at 63 years old, and having steak and lobster and pasta, whatever, every night, or, he does like his desserts. I will give you that. He's a dessert guy, but yeah, I mean,
maybe that's the secret.
It could be. I don't know though. I eat a lot of desserts, so. But yeah, I mean, you definitely have to to be cognizant of that, I think.
Mm-hmm. How long? You've been playing at a really good pace for a while. How long do you see yourself continuing to play on the Champions? You've been at it for a long time. I'm not trying to date you.
No, I know. No, as long as I can, as long as I can do it and stay competitive. The one good thing for me, good or bad, however, depending on how you look at it, when I'm not good enough to do it, I won't be able to do it. Okay. Unfortunately, there are guys, that play on our tour that, from a competition standpoint, they just know that they don't have a chance to win. They're just playing because they enjoy playing. For me, when I'm not good enough to play, I won't be able to play, because you know what I mean? Because my status won't allow me just to hang on,
right?
So, I mean, I will know when I am not good enough. It will be easier for me to know when I'm not good enough because I won't be able to play. So, I mean, my goal when I started this was to, if there was some way I could play this on this tour till I was 60, that would be awesome, and maybe it'll be shorter, maybe it'll be longer, who knows? But I think I think if you kind of look at guys who are similar to me as far as how they kind of got on the tour and, had some success. And I think you look at late 50s to 60, and then, a good buddy of mine, like Mike Goodis, is one of those guys. He's a guy that played on this tour for a long time, and now he's not getting to play this year. I think he's 60 or 61, and it's, he's had a pretty darn good run, and he's made a lot of money, and I think he's got a pretty good life set up for himself. And if I could hang in there till somewhere with the 6 in front of my age, I think that'd be pretty great.
Well, would you say that when guys get to that age that a lot of them have kids and they now have grandkids, so it's as they kind of say, okay, I'm approaching 60, or I'm pretty darn close, or I am, and I've got grandkids who have ball games, and I've done this for 40 years or 30 years or whatever it is, that maybe some other things take priority, and they can.
I could see that for guys who have played at a high level for a long time, like let's say like a Marco Mira, or gosh, I don't even know, like a Fred Couples or somebody. I could see somebody like that wanting to focus on other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think somebody in my position, or somebody like a Mike Goodis, I don't think so. I really think that it's just a matter of father time kind of catching up with you, and it's hard for a 60-year-old to compete with a 50-year-old. That's why what Bernhard Langer's doing is absolutely amazing. I mean, I know people talk about it, but I don't think they really realize how incredible it really is for a guy that's 63 years old to be in contention almost every week. It's mind-boggling against guys who just turned, Ernie Els, Retief Goose. These guys are 50, 51. They played on the PGA Tour just a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for a guy who's 63 to be in contention, I'm not talking about just playing, in contention just about every single week. I mean, nobody else is doing it. So obviously it's unbelievable, right? I mean, there's no other 63-year-olds leading the Schwab Cup
No.
at 63 years old. So to me, that just tells you how hard it is when you get in your 60s to really stay competitive with guys that are, 10 years or more younger than you. It's one thing when you're on the PGA Tour and you're 40 and guys are 30. You're still you're a different person at 40 than you are when you're 60 physically. So I think it's hard to go much past your 60s and stay competitive. And I don't think it really has to do with distractions from wanting to do other things. That could be somewhat of a factor, but I think, guys who like to compete, somebody like me, I mean, I want to compete, and I will want to do everything I can to play on this tour as long as I can. That's what I love to do,
Mm-hmm.
So
I got to ask you, I got this question from someone who said, who you got next on the show? And I said, Scott Parel. And they said, well, ask him if Freddie is as cool in person as he comes off on TV.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
he just oozes.
Yeah,
that doesn't
he? He is a cool guy, and he's a nice. I mean, he's as nice as he looks. He's a nice guy, and he is very cool. I mean, and he is unbelievably talented. I'm telling you. I mean, that guy can hit any shot he needs to hit. It's pretty fun to watch, actually, because I when I've played with them, I try to figure out like who, when I play with guys, like who is the most talented, because I mean, we got people who are in the Hall of Fame, right? So I mean, it's cool to compare people who are at the highest level ever at a sport in the history of the sport, right? And you kind of get to look and watch and compare. And that guy has got as much talent as anybody. I mean, it's just amazing the things he can make that golf ball do.
Is there anyone else out there that you look at and you're just like, wow, this guy is something else?
Well, there's a lot of guys now. I mean, I see that with Retief and Ernie both. I mean, when I see the way those guys can move the golf ball and how high they can hit it, how far they can hit it,
Mm-hmm.
in their 50s, it's pretty darn good. And I'll tell you one guy that I always too I haven't played with him in a long time, but um, is amazing is Corey Pavin for the way he plays, how he can still play golf. I mean, it's just I mean, he's hitting it 260 off the tee. I mean, how is somebody like that? He's hitting hybrids into holes where guys are hitting 9 irons,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's just amazing what he can do and how he can play golf. He still plays the same way he always did. I mean, he still hits shapes every shot, and it's pretty cool to see.
Well, even as much as the regular tour is, and all the debates and the talk of equipment and distance and all this other stuff, it still really comes down to the way you think about your game and your desire to achieve something. Would would you agree with that, or I mean,
I would
because
I would definitely
Pavin's
say
an
that.
example. I mean, even when he played the
Yes.
regular tour, he wasn't that long, but I think he got to number one in the world, or he was widely considered the best at the was it the '95 Ryder Cup?
95 when he won the US
Uh
Open.
huh.
Yeah. No, I think you're dead on. I mean, I think that's exactly right. And I think you're starting to see that I mean, a good example of that is a John Rahm. I think that guy, I mean, obviously he's been talented for quite a few years, right? But he had to get comfortable with how he plays and the things he needs to do to be the best player in the world. And it took him a little while, but he figured it out. He doesn't play like anybody else. He plays the way he plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what guys, when they figure that out, that's when they, end up being the best that they can be. I mean, nobody else is going to play like Bryson DeChambeau, and that's fine. And you shouldn't try to be, But when he gets comfortable with playing how he thinks he should play, he will be the best he can be. And that's what makes this game so great. You can have a guy like Corey Pavin, or you can have a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, and they could still shoot the same score on the same golf course. I mean, that's what's cool about this game.
It is cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
What you've had a lot of them, but what would you say was your best moment as a professional?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I still feel like that first win on the web.com tour was the most important um, moment for me in golf. Um, maybe the most satisfying or fulfilling was the first win on this tour
Mm-hmm.
in Seattle, because I proved that I really did. I was good enough to win on this tour. I was good enough to win on a tour that had Hall of Fame golfers, and kind of solidified in my own mind that I was, good enough to be on the Champions Tour. So
What if there was some young guys or girls out there that they're either in school and they're not playing, but they think that they have that desire to play. What advice would you give them?
well, I mean, if you think you want to play, you definitely should try, 100%. But if you're going to do it, you got to be, depending on how serious you are about it. If you want to be successful at this as your career in life, you got to be all in. Um, there's no halfway, I don't think. And that doesn't mean you have to play golf 365 days a year by any means, but that means that you got to be committed to do whatever you can to be better. And whether that's being able to take criticism, being able to listen to somebody that maybe knows more than you do about it, and be mature enough to understand the things that you need to do to improve. Um, you can't. I don't think you can be successful at this just by going halfway. There's too many people going 120%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty good advice. And if anyone listens, the young kids listening, it's not just in golf; it's in life, right?
That's
In
true.
today's world, there's just too much. The internet has changed everything, as far as that, and it's always somebody going to want to outwork you.
Yep, no doubt.
Let's
No doubt.
I've taken a lot of your time. You want to do some rapid fire and then wrap it up?
Sure.
All right, cool. First one, if you were in the Ryder Cup, let's say this Champions Tour said they're going to have a Ryder Cup, and what would be your walk-up song?
Probably who let the dogs out.
Is that because of the Georgia
Yes.
alum? All
Yeah.
right, cool. Let's see. If you had an emoji on your club, what would it be?
An emoji on a club probably would be a smiley face. Try to stay happy.
All right. Other than your own, whose game would you want most to have? Could be anybody in history.
Anybody in history?
Mm-hmm.
Probably Tiger Woods.
Yeah, that's not a bad one to pick, is it?
No.
I mean, he had length. He had great iron player. He can get up and down out of a ball washer. I mean, what more do you want? Checked all the boxes.
Yeah, mentally strong.
When you're home playing with your buds, what's your go-to drink while playing?
Gosh, I don't really have a go-to drink. I really don't, honestly. I drink a lot of water and a lot of Gatorade, Powerade, whatever. I'm not a big drinker on the course.
That might be one of the secrets to your success.
Maybe so.
Here's one for you. Best line from Caddyshack.
Oh, that hat should come with a bowl of soup. Looks good on you, though.
Now, this one, if anyone's been listening, you're from Augusta. Favorite golf course? This might be obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty much Augusta National. Yeah.
Let me size it. You've played there quite a bit, I'd have to imagine.
I have not. I've played there 4 times, which is quite a bit compared to the average guy.
Right.
But for as many years as I've lived here, it's not that much.
And your lowest score?
71.
Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. And that was since they lengthened it.
The greens as tough as they look on TV?
Yeah, they're pretty tough.
You haven't putted any off the green 50 yards off the front of the green, have you?
No, I don't think I've played them when they were fast enough for that.
And did you skip it on 16?
One time that I was there, I think I did try. Not with no success, though.
Let's see. Back at it. Dream foursome.
Gosh, dream foursome probably be my brother and my dad and Jack Nicklaus.
Be a pretty good one there. A couple more. If superpower, what would your superpower be?
Superpower. Oh gosh. Probably to be able to not take things so seriously. Let things roll off your back a little faster. I think that's more important than anything physically you can do. Mentally, it'd be nice to have a mental superpower.
Well, I myself and a lot of people agree for you to continue on your pursuit and with the success you've achieved, and it just keeps getting better and better. I think you've got that superpower nailed down pretty good. Last one. Greatest of all time, Tiger or Jack?
I'm gonna say Tiger.
It's
a hard one, though.
I
like Jack, but I just feel like when they were the best they were ever, I think Tiger was just a little bit better than everybody else, more than Jack was a little bit better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only way I would equate it, is that, when Tiger was at the top of his game, nobody was going to beat him. I still felt like when Jack was at the top of his game, somebody, but it could be the era of the guys that played too, I mean, I don't know. But I just feel like Tiger was at his best, was better, more much better than everybody else. Where Jack at his best was, he was a lot better. I'm not sure he was as much better as Tiger was.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Tiger played the best golf of all time.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess it would be right. I mean, what do you consider the greatest of all time? What does that mean? And to me, it's just like when they were, to me, it means when they were the best they were, how much better were they than everybody else who was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think Tiger, that's my measure. I think Tiger was just that much better than everybody else. I mean, you don't win a U.S. Open by 11 shots. I mean, that's just crazy.
You're about the 24th show I've had. It's about 50-50 on that question.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, it's a tough call. It really is.
Very tough call, and that's why it's fun to discuss it. That's why I throw it in there.
And we're still basing it on an incomplete body of work too, right? I mean, Tiger's still only 43 or whatever. So, I mean, Jack won the Masters at 46. So who knows what Tiger's going to do in his 40s? You just don't know.
It as you talked about earlier, that the younger kids don't have the fear factor. And you're right. I don't think they're coming up younger now, and they're ready to win much sooner than they were when we were at that age. But you still see it, and I never saw it more prevalent than at the Tour Championship. A year and a half ago, coming up on 2 years now, when Tiger was in contention, and it was like, and then ended up winning, and it was like all these guys they were watching him instead of trying to beat him. And they just got swooped into the same thing that everybody else did.
Yep.
And it's like they couldn't stop it.
No, it's just something about him, right? It just really is. It's just I don't know that anybody else, and I mean, I don't think Jack had that. I mean, I'm sure those guys playing against him knew when Jack was on they couldn't beat him, but it wasn't, I don't think they were watching what he was doing or playing poorly because of what he was doing. But I really believe that happened for Tiger. I mean, he just made people lose their game for whatever reason.
It was like Jack was a generational golfer. Bobby Jones before him was a generational golfer, and then you had Tiger. Do you think that there's going to be another generational golfer, or is the modern world just won't allow it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think I'm not sure the modern world will allow it. I think everybody's going to be too closely talented because of how soon everyone starts doing it now. I think, Tiger started doing it when he was 2 or something, and his dad bred him to do it his whole life, and so that doesn't work every time, but in his case it surely did work. And I don't know that there's another person out there that's going to have that kind of advantage like he did, because of the modern world, because everybody, but who knows, things change, obviously anything could happen, but it's hard to see it, it's just hard to see that could happen again.
It'd be fun to watch.
It would be. You just wonder how it could. I mean, it would be. I mean, here you got a guy like Dustin Johnson that's won 22 times, and most people don't even, they think, I mean, he's a pretty good golfer, but you don't think you'd never say he's Tiger Woods.
No,
22 times,
right? And as much as he can turn it on, like he did, a week and a half ago,
right?
He's got that talent, but it's like, okay, how do you turn that on?
Right, and and that's Tiger did it 82 times or whatever. It's just, I mean, I don't know that there's going to be another person at that driven again. Not in my lifetime. I don't think it could happen, but I don't think it'll be in my lifetime.
It's interesting to watch and see what happens.
Yep.
Well, if someone wants to reach out to you to get you to come to a corporate outing or speak at something, or is there a way they can get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just through the PGA Tour, or I mean, anything is fine. I mean, it's any way they want to get a hold of me I'd be more than happy to do it. But I don't really have I don't have like a website or anything. But I mean, they can email me at sparel2@comcast.net. That'd be fine.
Let me write that down because I gotta email you some stuff. sparel2@comcast.
Yep.
And I'll get with you later to get some stuff to you for this and all the links and everything else. Scotty, it's been great catching up with you.
Man. Next
time you come down to Hilton Head, give me a heads up. I'd love to meet you out at the course, play around with you again. You can beat my brains in again, or then we can go have a couple beers.
Yeah, there we go. Sounds good.
You have a great night. It's been great talking to you.
All right. See you, Pete.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed it, you can find more information on today's episode and other topics at golf360.blog. There you'll find the show notes and links related to this episode, as well as any other episode that we've done so far to date. If you're interested in improving your game and would like to learn more from yours truly by taking a private lesson, a half-day or multi-day school, club or putter fitting, you can reach me through the blog site or by email, pete@golf360.blog. So some of you may be asking, what is the golf paradigm? All you have to do is click on the homepage while on my blog site to discover how you can start playing better than you ever thought possible. Or you can simply sign up again on the blog page for my instructional videos where I give regular tips on all areas of the game to include the swing, club design and fitting, health, fitness and nutrition, the mental aspects, and equally as important, the integration of all those things together. I'm also on social media, and you can find me at The Golf Paradigm. That's PARADIGM. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, also under the same name, The Golf Paradigm. Facebook is usually the best way to reach me for questions and or comments, and I look forward to hearing what all of you have to say. This podcast is brought to you in part by Old South Golf Links. A short ride across a bridge from Hilton Head Island is one of the area's finest golf courses and a hidden treasure. Set up on towering pines and ancient oaks with sweeping marsh vistas, truly makes Old South Golf Links a one-of-a-kind golfing experience. The Clyde Johnson design was named one of the top 10 new public courses when it opened, and it also takes full advantage of the natural beauty of the Low Country. Old South is a fun and unique challenge for golfers of every skill level and a favorite of both locals and visitors. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular, you'll be treated and feel like family. From the bag drop to check-in at the fully stocked pro shop with both men's and women's apparel, to breakfast or lunch before or after your round, the staff is always ready and willing to help. Experience for yourself why Old South is one of the premier golf courses in the Hilton Head area and why it will quickly become a favorite of yours too. Visit them in person or online at www.oldsouthgolf.com, or to make it tee time, simply call the pro shop at 843-785-5353.